Hey guys, so yesterday I talked about Warner Brothers Games Montreal's upcoming Batman title that we're hopefully going to see at the DC Fandome event on August 22nd. And additionally, I think that it's reasonable to hope that we also see Rocksteady's upcoming announcement. And the reason for this is that we actually know that Warner Brothers was planning on doing an E3 event this year in which they were going to show off Batman, they were going to show off Rocksteady's game, and they were also going to actually show off the Harry Potter RPG that's currently in the works at Avalanche Software. Of course, due to E3's cancellation, these plans fell through, and due to Comic-Con moving online, DC kind of opted out of just doing all of these events digitally and decided to do their own digital experience called the DC Fandome, in which they will show us everything on all fronts. They will show us everything that's coming our way for TV, for movies, for games, for comics. So obviously this is not an event that Harry Potter will be at, but this is an event that they're trying to build their brand and kind of get the whole DC community more excited than they've been in years. This is a pretty big power move for them. And so I think it would be a missed opportunity if they didn't show off both of these games. And I'll be honest, even if they show off one, if they just show off Batman, I will be beyond hyped. But if they show both, I might have to go see my doctor because of a heart attack or something. So I'm really excited to see what both of these games are. I talked about just the scope of what I think the Batman could be yesterday in my video. And, I'm also excited to see what they have on the movie end of things. I'm excited to see a trailer for the Suicide Squad film, for the Snyder Cut, for, we might even get some teaser images for the Batman or something. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see what they give us. I'm also interested to see what movies they have greenlit and are putting into production. But one of the most interesting things that I think everyone's looking forward to is if Rocksteady is there, because the reports are that they are working on a Suicide Squad game. And this was further confirmed by some domains that were purchased by Warner Brothers. We got BatmanGame.com, I believe SuicideSquadGame.com, but then we also got Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League, which I assume would be the tagline. So instead of be the Batman, it would be kill the Justice League, and that would be their primary objective of the game, which I'm sure doesn't end very well for them, but I think it's a genius marketing ploy, and I'll explain why. I think that if Rocksteady is in fact doing a Suicide Squad game, that is perfect for them, and I think that they are perfectly positioned to work on that title, because I look at what they did with Batman, and they did some great work, and I think that there's a lot more to be done with Batman in video games. I just don't know if Rocksteady is necessarily the studio to move forward with more Batman projects. I can understand why they retired after Arkham Knight. I think that they pretty much exhausted their entire gameplay model into Batman, and it definitely, I think, is time for them to do something else. And, Warner Brothers Games Montreal might be able to add some kind of nuance. They might be able to find some new gameplay elements to add to Batman. And I think that Rocksteady's game model is evolving to a degree beyond Batman. It needs to start picking up new elements such as shooting mechanics, and I think that they are starting to find that they want to go in a more lethal direction. I mentioned this in a previous video, but you're driving a tank around in Arkham Knight. Obviously they want to make a game that's big, has huge set pieces, has big explosions, has lots of shooting, and Suicide Squad is perfect for doing that. And what you can do with the Suicide Squad, I think, is a pretty logical step to go past Arkham Knight. And, you look at what they were experimenting with in Arkham Knight. You look at the dual play. You look at just the scale of the world and of Batman's abilities in that game. And once you start applying those to other characters, and you can have multiple, play styles for each character, you can evolve the dual play into tri-play or quadruple play, where you're controlling 4 Suicide Squad members at the same time. And the way that I mentioned that they could do this in the podcast I do with Slickmoth and Salvage and Dustin was, what if you were dual playing with Harley Quinn and Deathstroke, and then instead of a Batmobile assisted takedown, you build up your combo, and then you toss a dude into the air and call for Deadshot to shoot him. And then instead of a quick fire gadget, maybe Killer Frost is standing off to the side. So instead of throwing a freeze grenade at someone, you press the quick fire and she jumps in for a second to freeze the dude and then jumps back out. So you can control 4, 5, 6 members at once and kind of control this whole team. Or alternatively, you could make this a multiplayer title, which I think would be equally cool. There's a lot of multiplayer potential. especially if there's some kind of character customization and an online feature that maybe has a smaller campaign that's kind of like DC Universe Online, except, very high quality. I just look at this experience and I feel like there's so much potential of where they could go, both with dual play, with exploration. And also, let's talk about the inclusion of the Justice League. This is genius. One thing that I've always kind of said was my one drawback to necessarily believing that they were doing a Suicide Squad game is it doesn't seem like it's necessarily the most marketable property. However, if in every single trailer you show Wonder Woman, Superman, maybe Batman, The Flash, Green Arrow, and the Suicide Squad members have to do boss battles with these guys, that is a huge selling point. And just to see Rocksteady's interpretation of these characters is going to be staggering if it's true. It's going to be so freaking good. And I just think that this is a great move on their part if it is in fact true. And I don't think enough people are giving it enough credit. Pretty much anytime someone hears this idea, they're like, well, I'd rather play the other way around. I'd rather play as the Justice League fighting the Suicide Squad. However, here's my theory on that. I think that if this game does well, that they will then be able to do a Justice League game or something on an even bigger scale with a bigger team. And the reason is that if you go right out of the gate and screw up a team-based Justice League game or a multiplayer-based Justice League game, you're kind of screwed. However, if you kind of, stammer over a Suicide Squad game or stumble over that, then you can get constructive feedback and criticism before you jump into a Justice League developed game. And like I said, I don't think that they'll have too much of an issue. I think that this Suicide Squad game, if this is what we're going to be seeing from them, will be a very high quality game. But I think that it's a way for them to test out these mechanics and just test out servers for multiplayer. And it's kind of a very glorified beta test to see if a Justice League game model could work. And so I'm very hopeful. And like I said, I honestly think that Rocksteady, just the style of their games, might feel even more well-positioned on a Suicide Squad game. I really think that the tone of their games really matches Suicide Squad, and just their character designs are always so good. And I think that the roster of characters that they could bring in and the variety in free roaming and combat could be incredible. And like I said, it would just be so interesting. Like I said, if the Flash is a primary antagonist of this game, that will be so cool. That'll be so interesting, again, to see their interpretation of this character and just to see what the mechanics of the boss battles with these Justice League members could be. I remember talking to someone back in 2016 and saying, wouldn't it be cool if they did an Arkham game where it was a Batman versus Superman boss battle, except it's in an Arkham game. You could do the Hush where Superman has to fight Batman. And I don't know, there's just something about the Arkham mechanics where you feel very powerful as Batman. And it would just be interesting to see how they would incorporate gameplay into you battling someone like Superman. And now it sounds like they could be doing something like this with the Suicide Squad. And I don't know, I think that there's some story potential there as well. Perhaps they have a mission where they have to go find kryptonite to use against Superman or something. And it'll be interesting to see how the story pans out, because that is a pretty unorthodox story for the Suicide Squad. So I'm personally really excited. I think it's great for marketing. I think it's a great direction for Rocksteady to go as a studio. And I think it'll be a great evolution. And not only that, I also think that it will be a great companion piece to this Batman game. And that is one final thing that I'll say. Is this game in the Arkham universe? Are we seeing the Arkham version of the Suicide Squad? Is this a new continuity? Is it in the same continuity as the new Batman game? All that I want to say is I don't really care, because I don't think it really changes up the dynamic of the game too much unless it's in a different universe than the Batman game. And I think that would be a huge misstep and a huge oversight if these games are in separate universes. And it would almost be a disservice, because what this would allow DC games to do going forward is we get a really solid Batman game and then perhaps a really good sequel down the line at some point. But this Suicide Squad game would help us expand the world of this Batman game. We'd get to see a lot more villains and a lot more of the Justice League members, and depending upon the popularity of each one, that could catapult really any of them into their own standalone game, like Superman, or even a Justice League game. So I'm really excited. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Please be sure to like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and we'll see you guys in the next one.